All right, welcome back. Episode 14, closed beta, Ultimate Guide to New World. This is going to be the last one in this series. Unfortunately, there's a break. They've delayed the launch, so we're going to have to wait a little bit longer. But in the meantime, I've got some other footage, and I'll try to edit and put stuff together. But if you joined us in our previous episode, and the one before that, I hate to say I told you so, and it's really unfortunate we're seeing. And that being said, I think let's just take a moment of silence here to reflect on the awful things that happened today to innocent people that just wanted to have a chance at a rewarding life. So we're on a new chapter. This guy wants to duel me. I hadn't dueled anybody, so I figured I'll give it a shot. Yeah, it's really unfortunate what happened. I definitely saw it coming. I know a lot of other people did. I don't think that we're completely out of the woods yet, and I hope that everyone's doing everything they can. And honestly, at this point, it's so easy to be angry. You know, earlier today I was just angry. I didn't sleep last night. I was watching all this stuff unfold, and then I was gonna get in line early at Best Buy to try and get my hands on some more graphics cards. And so we did that. Took the Bronco out, and I had to drive an hour and a half to the closest Best Buy that got any cards. And by the time we got there at 7 a.m., there was already people camped out from the day before, and we had to walk all the way around the back side of the building where the loading bays are for the trucks and the dumpsters and stuff. And we were back there for probably like at least a half hour, and you couldn't see anything from back there, but it seemed like people were cutting up in line. They were just jumping in. Hey, I know somebody in line, and they just lie and say they've been here the whole time or whatever. So we're like the back of the line. It doesn't move for like an hour. And we finally get up to the part where we can see the parking lot. We're not like in an industrial alleyway anywhere. We finally get up to the corner of the parking lot, and people are leaving. And so we're like 3 or 4 hours into this process. Meanwhile, everybody's all worried about social distancing. Best Buy's got probably like 250 people crammed in these really tight lines, shoulder to shoulder, and waiting for the graphics cards. So we end up not getting one. I talked to this other guy in line. He was buying one for his son, so he just wanted to play some cool games. And I was talking to him, and he was really interested about crypto and stuff. So I explained pretty much the whole crypto thing to him, and he thought that was cool. So eventually we end up leaving, and when I get up to the front, I know that at least 10% of those people were not in line when we got there. And there were a bunch of scalpers. So like people were just scalping it. They didn't want to play games like this guy's son, or for us, I've got other cards, so it's not like it was a big deal to not get one. But I was under the impression, by what I saw online, that when they do this, everybody gets one, and that's what a lot of people said when they got there. And so there was probably like another 200 people, including us, that didn't get a chance to buy one. And when we finally go back to the vehicle and we're walking past the line, and there must be 250 people in like 100 square foot area. I mean, they got them like packed in tight, and everybody's waving around their little papers of whatever card they're going to buy. And there's people walking up and down saying, they're like arguing about, oh, I'll sell you $2,500. You're gonna make $1,000 just for having the paper, and so stand here. And so it's like scalpers and stuff, So on the way out, I asked everyone in line, does anyone want to sell a 3090? And this one guy, which wasn't there when we showed up, was like, 3 bands. And I look at my wife and she looks at me, and I look at this guy and I'm like, what? And he just like giggle melts into like his crowd of friends. And that was it. So I was like, all right, we'll just leave. And then this other kid yells out of the line, he's like, if you go to the back of the line, that's where the 3090s are. Good luck. And I was like, I've already got it at home, so like, good luck to you guys. And we left. But it really sucked because that was another hour and a half home. So I spent the first 7.5 hours trying to get a graphics card at Best Buy during the pandemic. And I get home and I hear about this stuff in the Middle East. 13 U.S. we'll just call them military, deceased, and altogether, including American citizens, at least 90 casualties, which is horrifying. And so I went from being upset about getting all the information and predicting about what was going to happen, going to get the graphics card, didn't get the graphics card, came back, everything that I said was going to happen happened. And like I said, I would rather be wrong. I wish I was wrong, but I was right, and that's really unfortunate. And I wish that they had, better protection and support over there. But my mind automatically goes to what's going to happen next. If you watch today's address, it was a little confusing. Definitely a step in the better direction than previous days, but a little confusing. It seems like our leaders want us to be worried about other things that they say are bigger threats, that are closer. And it makes me think, the only big threats that are close by, China and Russia, because they're like, virtually touching Alaska. So it's not that far away. And Taiwan pops into my mind. I think what's going on right now is making us look weak even though we're not. That might be some sort of strategy to get people to engage. And that reminds me of like the Black Hand Gang bringing us into World War. And, you know, a lot of people debate in history class and whatnot if that was really the beginning of World War II. I believe it was too. I could be wrong, sorry if I'm wrong. But I believe there was an assassination, and it had to do with Black Hand Gang in Austria or something like that. It's been a couple years since I brushed up on this, but that's what you call a World War entry event, kind of like Pearl Harbor. Maybe that was World War One and Pearl Harbor too. I don't know. I need to brush up on that. I'm sorry, but that's an entry event, and this is an entry event, and we're supposed to be leaving. But if you look at what they said, and I'm not saying I disagree with it, I'm just analyzing what we've been presented with, but it sounds like there's definitely more violence and casualties to come, probably on both sides. Tensions are going to get higher, and there's no way to really diffuse that, because as more people leave Afghanistan, these violent oppressors and terrorists that have taken over the area, they're going to have less people to oppress and to enslave. And so they're going to want to leave too, because they'll be the rulers of, you know, nothing. So they're going to want to leave too. Eventually, it's like if you give a mouse a cookie, everyone's going to want to leave. That's why you got to have a representation. Like you're a citizen or something like that. At least a fast track it. I mean, still got to vet everybody, but like American citizens are going to be requiring less vetting than somebody who has no records or paperwork or anything. I'm not really sure how you would vet that. That's not my specialty, but it makes me wonder about what's coming next. So they say we're going to get payback. It makes me wonder what that means. There's a couple different paths I see this taking. I don't see the administration elevating anything militarily until at least the deadline. Because it is a sensitive situation, they don't want to put too much pressure on it in the wrong way. And I get that. I think that the rescue efforts are going to go more into individual rescue plans, like they're going to use some helicopters and, you know, pick up people that way in like cells or pods. Or maybe there's other flats or roads or that they can land on and pick up people that aren't around the airport. Maybe they can get some sort of distance between them and bad guys and do some sort of makeshift loading. This reminds me a lot of Exodus. And it seems like a mass migration now. And once our people get out, and we've promised to give them payback, I guess that's what it's looking like. I'm wondering what the form of that payback is going to be. I've heard a lot of conflicting things about the equipment that's been left behind. Some people are saying that we're already destroying or disabling the machinery that, you know, hopefully doesn't have people in it when they destroy it, unless it's bad guys. That would be I guess, a bonus. But they're not sure whether or not there's military from ourselves or even from other countries that are AWOL, and they've decided to go against their orders or commands, and they're just trying to save as many people as they can. That's definitely the noble thing to do. They risk being court-martialed for going against their orders. I've gotten to know somebody really well that went through that whole process. According to him, it was, sending these guys into their certain death, and they knew it, and it was discussed, and they decided it was like a sacrifice they had to make, and he's like, no, we just don't go. Instead of the whole platoon getting sacrificed, and I guess there was a fight or whatever, and he ended up getting discharged, and was AWOL for a while, and I mean, last I checked, he's doing great, which is awesome, and got help from the VA, and I guess they'd been helping him out, and I was encouraging him to get whatever kind of help they offer, anything, even if it's just, assistance with living expenses, that everything adds up, So it's cool that for any veterans that are listening that are having a hard time, check out the VA. I know that it's not the greatest thing in the world for some people, but I know it helps a lot. That's why they do it. And, hopefully it's not too overwhelmed with the whole virus thing. Which, by the way, I get the whole wanting to have your liberties and your rights and fresh air, and it's your body and your health, and you can take your risk if you want with it, and I get that, and that's cool. And I'm not going to make any personal statements about what I do or what I believe, because I just don't want to be attacked about it. But just because you have the ability and power to do stuff doesn't mean that you should overdo it or abuse it. And I think with the accelerated rate that everybody's getting ill, that we should probably just not be as social as we want to. Simply just to try to cut down transmission. I know I sound like a broken record. Everybody's been saying this forever. It's nothing new. But all I'm saying is, do you really have to go do it? That's what I ask myself. Do I really have to go do this? Do I have to do it now? Can I wait to do it? That's the kind of questions I would start asking myself if I was you. Because I see a couple of things on the horizon. I'm not calling for any sort of violence. I'm simply analyzing strategy here. My goal is to save as many innocent, good people's lives as possible, and hopefully disable the bad guys in whatever scenario. And you can't disable them and they won't stop being evil, then you gotta remove them. But there's a couple scenarios. One scenario I would say, and in no particular order do I think one is more likely than the other, but we could pull everybody out and they threaten us or attack us more, and we just drop it on them, and a lot of people would be affected by that. It's not the ideal situation, but we've done it before. Nagasaki, Hiroshima. It's a little excessive. I'm not sure that those people deserve that. But it seems like with weapons of that scale that they're not precise enough to punish only the bad people. And even with smaller things that don't leave a 100-year wake behind them of destruction, like nuclear does. Even just regular stuff that explodes. Regular boom. That's even not that precise either, and so we've already sort of exhausted the whole mission out there. It seems like they've tried everything they could think of. And there's a clash of cultures here. It's more than just that. It's a clash of societies and classes and technological levels, educational levels, global awareness, all that kind of stuff. Another option is that the president's just bluffing and he's going to get as many people out as he can, and then we've got a huge hostage situation and money printer Gopher, you know what I'm saying? So that's another option, because it's like you could print the money. They could even market some way that like these cave people can't tell it's fake, but anybody else would. Kind of like a bank or something that they try to give the money to. Essentially what I'm proposing is give them counterfeit money. Put a tracker in it. Give it to them, leave, make it blow up. That's an option. But another option would be, so that's two. The first one's big boom after everyone leaves. After everyone leaves. Second option is what we just talked about. And let's see, let's get a third option. The third option would be big boom, payoff. Option 3, it's got to be more of a surgical kind of attack, and for that I would personally, I'd elect drones for that. Obama used drones. Trump used drones. Heck, even Bush used drones, I think. Drones are cool. It eliminates the risk on our side of losing anyone. Just as easy as I'm gaming this game right now, I could be a drone pilot and you would have no idea. And, use your imagination. You could have a gamer like myself fly a drone somewhere else in the world, deliver a payload, and you would never be able to know. But that's not what I do. Otherwise, it would be like the stupidest way to blow my cover ever. I'm not affiliated with the government or anything like that, but it's just simply what I'm saying is possible with today's technology. They've got, somebody's driving around this rover on Mars, right? And somebody is. So, somebody's in control of this, and how would you be able to defuse the situation with the drone you're relying on? on the ground intelligence, which isn't always reliable, and then you rely on digital evidence or surveillance of the devices of the people in that area. But that's not always easy to survey all of these things. It's hard to even get into devices, especially on a large scale. And then how do you monitor who? And that's just a really large undertaking. I'm sure that there are countries that, like the NSA for the United States, where somebody's basically just listening to something all the time, whatever it is that they're looking for. But I'm seeing a couple different futures here. Obviously, we're engaged in a digital war. That's been apparent. Cybersecurity is a real issue. I guess they say the terrorists aren't a big issue, but today it had more U.S. casualties than any other day in the last 10 years. And I think that that's too many. And it's really unfortunate, like we mentioned before. And that's why I wouldn't really elect option 4, but it still exists, and that would be to increase the military presence. But you would get a lot more casualties, especially on our side, versus just not having as many people there. So I hope that the military stays as long as they can and gets as many people out as they can. And now that there's no center, I mean, the airport there kind of became like an epicenter. Now that there's no epicenter to go get rescued, they're going to have to start making these little cells, like I was talking about earlier, airlifting them out of these cells. And these helicopters, they're going to need flares and anti-aircraft and all the safety stuff. And then moving forward beyond the 31st, it seems like he's not trying to show off our military strength at all, and it makes me wonder if he's positioned in other areas that perhaps are more strategically defensive than the Middle East. It seemed like he said pretty heavy today that there's bigger threats that are closer. Obviously, China wants to know about our virus programs now, and they're saying we did it. And so this is going to be a he said, she said, and it's going to be really hard to prove it with evidence, especially with how much time has passed already. And there's so much propaganda and fake news and whatnot that how do you even process it and know it's real and be accurate so often that it's not a problem? I'm not an expert in how Middle East power structures work, but I would say I do know a thing or two about just human nature in general, and I would say confidence has a lot to do with the bolstering of the enemy's strength, because America appearing weak and trying to make backroom deals instead of just telling them to do what we want them to do, or else because that's really the American way to do stuff. Whether you agree with it or not, that's more or less the way it's been, and that's the way it's been because that's what's effective. That's the language that people speak. They speak, I don't want to die. That's why these countries negotiate things with each other, because people in China don't want to die for what their government does. People in America don't want to die for what their government does. Same with any other country, especially with the Middle East. I imagine it would be easy for people in, not only the United States but around the world to see all of these refugees and to think with the pre-programming of the last 20 years that all of these people are your enemy and they're all evil. Obviously that's not the case. And well, of course there's going to be some threats. We have to ask ourselves, supposing we all survive this, what is the future going to think about what's going on right now? So how is the future going to write in the history books of what's gone on this week, today, and what is going to happen in the future? And we could easily take over that country in like a week. But why would you want to? And the cost would be astronomical in all sorts of assets, including lives. I think that it's not the previous guy's fault if you're late after his original rollout date. I think that's your fault. And let me break that down in a way that maybe people could understand. If I go into my shift at McDonald's and I make a burger, or I get there's an order for a burger and I gotta make it, and I go to make my burger and there's not the ingredients that I need, and the previous shift didn't renew or refresh the ingredients, and I go to make this burger, but I find out I gotta refresh the new ingredients myself, and that's gonna take me 5 whole minutes. So I run to the walk-in fridge and I get all the shredded lettuce and cheese slices and whatever else that they use at McDonald's. I don't know. I've not worked there. But then I get all that stuff done. Now I'm 5 minutes behind the curve. And it's going to take me, let's just say for argument and math's sake, another 5 minutes to make this order. So all in all, if nothing was ready, it takes me 10 minutes to make the burger and complete the order. On average, normally, you're looking at a 5 minutes. So now the order time is doubled. Okay. So the May date that was set by the previous administration, that would be the burger if everything was in place already. But because the burger wasn't ready for a transfer, they were planning to get a second term. So when it all transferred over, it became the new team's responsibility to make that burger order. They spent 5 minutes getting the materials, 5 minutes to the burger, 10-minute order. It's usually 5 minutes. It's 5 minutes late. It's not a huge deal. I've waited longer for food. But that was in May. Now, since May, it's been April, May, June, July, August, almost September. It's been almost 5 months. So that would be the equivalent of walking into a shift that wasn't ready, taking 5 minutes to get it ready, 5 minutes to fill the order, and then letting it sit there and get cold for another 5 minutes. before hitting it to everybody. That's not the previous guy's fault. That's your fault. You should have got it done in 10 minutes at the most if the person before you didn't do their job. But you got it done in 15 minutes. And so you're 5 minutes late. And that 5 minutes just so happened to be a big deal this time. And I guess we should try to not do that as much as we can. I'm kind of at a loss for words today. It's definitely been a strange day. I'm trying not to be too harsh on anyone, but this stuff all seems super obvious to me. I feel like the only reason everything's getting so messed up right now is because we've got people that are making decisions that are trying to prove something, whatever it is that they're trying to prove. And what's negative about that in a leadership role is that sometimes you'll double down or do something wrong because you feel like it's maybe what people want you to do. But then later on you find out people would have just preferred I did the right thing rather than be entertaining. Because the truth is, we've all seen really entertaining people before take the fall. Here's mining crude oil out of Steeping Stone. So this is the oil that you need for the town projects that everyone says doesn't exist, but here it is, I'm mining it. So yeah. What are we gonna do? We have, ultimately, there's a fork in the road here. There's two paths that we can take. We cut our losses and get as many people out as we can, and then cut our losses, and that's it. People died, we mourn, it's the price that we've paid for the exit, and that's really sad, and I hope that we can do better than that. The second path is we pull as many people out as we can and just decimate them like biblical shit. Apocalyptic hellfire, you know. You know, the whole thing, the whole spiel. So I'm not an advocate for violence, but if these people are this violent and you're giving them all these things and they attacked us before with our own stuff, never mind giving them stuff to attack us with. I don't know what kind of, if you all got LoJack on your vehicles and helicopters, and I hope to God you do, because that would be a really easy way to just disable it when it's strategically an advantage and dispose of them, you know, maybe when the bad guys are inside them. I don't know. But either way, I'm not seeing any sort of path where nobody gets hurt. And that's really sad that we're stuck here. It's like this catch-22. Do you risk more people to save more people? Or do you betray them and walk away and ignore what's happening? There's another thing that I'd like to bring up, and I think it's important because times like these are historical, to say the least, and when historical things happen, I tend to look back at history and see you know, run this through the algorithm of what I know in my mind and see what pops up with, you know, similarities. And there's a couple times in history when this reminds me of other events. And like I said, this is a entry event kind of event. And so entry into what? Well, if we're not supposed to be worried about them, and we've got bigger, badder people that are closer by to be more worried about, where we don't have military presence, that certainly seems like a very real wake-up call for World War III. I know a lot of people have been talking about Civil War stuff here and there, but this is a world stage. You might only be aware of what's happening in the US. Maybe that's all you care about, so that's all these algorithms serve you. You know, maybe they don't serve you international news, but the whole world is suffering right now, and they've got refugees all over the place. China's about to invade Taiwan. They've already taken Hong Kong back. And if these trends continue, it's going to bolster other enemies. Russia, you know, Putin's he's not afraid of Biden, I guarantee you. Guarantee you. Ask me how I know. But, yeah, I've been to Russia years and years ago. But they're not scared. They were scared of Trump. They're not scared of Biden. And you would probably argue that's a good thing, peace and love. But the reality is that these people are like pay-per-view eliminating people. I mean, that's something that Hitler would do if they had the infrastructure and technology to do that back then. That's something they would do. So I look back at things in history and I see similarities like that. And it's very alarming. And if America is not going to be able to control these things around the world, we at least need to be able to control them in America. If we can't deal with foreign threats overseas, or just foreign threats in general, but in the foreign territory that we're talking about, then we need to bolster our defenses in the homeland adamantly and solidify it, because this is we're going into some rough waters here, and we need to batten down the hatches and patch any leaks and creeks that we might be able to find in our ship here, because having open borders and pulling in the enemies and just relocating them down the street, you know, it's not good for anybody. You can't just bring people here and drop them off and they have no work experience, no skills, no assets, no shelter, no money, food, nothing. They need clothes. You're basically bringing homeless people. That's essentially what a refugee is. So when you bring these refugees over here, and I understand we don't want these people to be killed, and we want to look back on this in history and say we made at least the best decisions we could have from this point forward and saved as many people as they could. Because if you look back at things like the Holocaust, you instantly, if you have any sort of heart or empathy or ethics, even any sort of anything, soul, you look at the situation, you say, this could have been prevented earlier. This could have been intercepted. We always think about like, oh yeah, I'm sure the time police are just going to jump in their time machine and go back and kill Hitler's mom and prevent the Holocaust. That's not how this stuff works. You can't. Obviously, that's not real. It would have happened. Or it couldn't have happened then. And that's the other thing that's trippy about time travel. We'll talk about in the future. Because you couldn't go too far back and change too much, because then you wouldn't exist to be able to change it. And so, really, when you change something, everything's different from that point. And so you don't have infinite options. You only have options that are quantumly possible for you. So, anyways, yeah, I hope that God is with every one of our people and all of the innocent people, and even the sick people too. I hope that everything starts to turn around soon. But in the event that it doesn't, and I'm not going to hold my breath, because you got to be ready to react. But overall, this is not looking great. And I'm trying to be cautiously optimistic about what's going on, but we have a couple things happening right now on international scale or front that, first of all, we have a space race. And it's not only between companies, but also governments. And we're already talking about, rights violations in space. So there's definitely a need for the Space Force, obviously. But that whole space race thing, maybe if that could calm down for a minute and focus on all the dying people, that would probably be ideal for everybody. I understand how corporations, and they work on the bottom line, and they got to report earnings quarterly, or they don't get their positive shareholders reviews. It reflects negatively on them as an investment, and you lose money as a company by that. I get all that. I'm tired of the stupid endorsements, and let's get some philanthropy and some charity going. And you don't want to bring in 100,000 people into your country. I mean, that's nothing compared to what's come out of the southern border, I guess. Let's just say you don't want to bring in potentially 1 million people into your country and then say, good luck and don't stress out the system too much. You got to at least have some sort of training wheels for these people. They're in a whole new society. There's culture shock. Even if they're American, there could be culture shock, because the America that they might have remembered and left, it's a different America now. They might still be culture shock. So you need to keep all this stuff in mind, that we're living in a very unique time now, and we've not really been through these waters yet. And we're all sort of helping each other navigate what's going on. And I know a lot of people are busy with their lives and their jobs, careers, whatever it is that they do. And you can't stop and get involved with every sort of thing that happens, or you'll never get to your destination. It's like the Winston Churchill quote. You can't stop and throw rocks at every dog that barks, otherwise you'll never get to where you're going. But every once in a while you should throw a rock. And this is, if you haven't thrown a rock in a while, this is definitely the one that a lot of people are throwing. And what I mean by throwing a rock is kind of sending your opinion out there, doing what you can to help. and not making it like a political thing or for personal gain, but like genuinely just to help people. And that's okay if you can only help people like in your direct life or your apartment or your school or your family or just a friend or even some random stranger at 7-Eleven or the guy that I'm talking to in line at Best Buy earlier today. If you can just help people out. I mean, everybody's become so divisive, and everyone's kind of like backed into a corner. And I think part of this quarantine, put your face up, mask on, do what you're told, don't talk to people, don't see people, don't do stuff. I think that this is starting to have a mental health effect. I know people have been talking about it, it's a mental health crisis now, but it's so much worse than that. People are starting to create militias and factions in the United States, which is like kind of like what's happened in the Middle East. It got destabilized because every country's got their little terrorist proxy. This one's got his funding and weapons from Russia. This one's got stuff from China. There's the American ones. And it's almost like these superpowers are using these people to duke out their fights for them, kind of like Rock'em Sock'em robots, or like Tekken. It's like your best warrior versus my best warrior. But like these people aren't aware that they're being used as like video game characters. Like life is not a simulation. I don't care how cool and advanced and smart you think you are. Life is not a simulation. You can't prove that. It's duh. If you're in the simulation, you couldn't prove that it was a simulation anyways. And if you could, that's a garbage simulation. And you're talking about a simulation that's so advanced that like you don't even know you're real your whole life, but then you just figure it out one day, like butterfly effect or the Mandela effect, and like now you can just like hack it. I mean, there would only be one person that could ever do that, because anyone that could figure that out, they wouldn't allow anyone else the opportunity to get that power. I guess we call that person Father Time or God or whatever you want to call them, but I don't know. I'm getting a little deep here, but what are we supposed to learn from this situation? The first thing we're supposed to learn is we can't police the world. We shouldn't be. I understand standing up in human rights and humanitarian situations like this, and I totally support helping people that really need it. But we can't help the whole world, so we're very selective with who we can use this aid for. And it's gotten to the point where we're like so in debt. I remember it wasn't too long ago, and I've checked debt clock for years, but it wasn't too long ago that we were at like $20 trillion in debt, and I was doing the math, and there's like no way we're ever going to pay off this debt, like ever. And then since then they've like made it 30 trillion, and we need another 3, and we need another 5, and we need 7. And I get it, you're just printing the money, and printing the money is going to fix all the problems, right? Well, no. Here's my prediction of what's going to happen. We are living in the beginning of a new world. These are birthing pains. We're giving birth right now to the New World Order. As much as you don't want to call it that, as bad a rap as that gets, that's what we're looking at. We're looking at people are waking up and they're realizing that government can't do everything for them. The tech companies can't do everything for them. And left to their own devices, more often than not, they're going to become corrupt. It's just a matter of how corrupt and when, like how long until it happens. Because every system is corruptible. I mean, that's the first thing that you're going to learn in cybersecurity or hacking, that everything is corruptible if you have the ability, if you have the technology level. So, what do I think is going to happen? I think World War III is going to happen. I think the UK is already kind of disgusted with us right now. But I feel like they're using this rare opportunity to try to virtue signal to the countries in Europe that they're better. But maybe you are, but probably not. And even if you were, we're all a team. So everybody's got to help each other out. And honestly, this is something that's really bothering me. Twitter's got me and everybody else silenced. And they're giving the megaphone to terrorists and just super hateful people, mentally ill, very mentally ill, full of hate, angry, negative people. And if that makes you upset, you get banned. And even if you don't say anything and you never let them know that you're upset, just by scrolling over something and not liking it and commenting on it, they're able to tell how interested you are in a certain thing, or if it has triggered you, or if it's captivated your attention for how long. Because basically, when I was a kid, we used to play around with some of these programs, and I never really did any major hacking, but there's this stuff called, just like when I share my screen on Twitch, it's remote viewing. And remote viewing is achievable by anybody on your computer. I can watch your computer if I give you a virus. And that's what these viruses did. The viruses in the past, they would keylog and screen share. And so they could see everything that you did and typed and clicked on, like a recording video. And they could go back and watch you type in your password and see you typing it in, and then steal your account information and do whatever they want from there. And that's how, rudimentary hacking used to work. What I see happening in the near future is that this same type of behavior is going to come back, but it's going to be evolved this time. And it's evolved this way into cookies. So now cookies are viruses, because a cookie represents a company that's trying to invasively track you and collect your information, which is an invasion of your privacy, and it's also unconstitutional. For example, your phone is collecting health information on you and serving you articles based on your health information it's collected about you, which could, in theory, be argued a HIPAA violation. But people opt into it. So, by opting into something, you are relinquishing your rights, if you've agreed to. There are all sorts of contracts that people have entered into before that are extreme. and sometimes the contracts or terms of service agreement will supersede amendments and laws and rights, and I don't think that that's proper. That should be changed. Otherwise, we'll be at death's door. Bum, bum, bum. Alright, so we're going to restart here, or respawn. Yeah. That's all really sad. I hope minimal amount of people get hurt. How do you defuse this situation? I'm going to think about it while we go to this voiceover.
I can't tell you what a relief this is. These supplies will keep us fed, and that is no small thing. You are a good citizen and a loyal friend. No matter how long you live, you never master the art of letting go of painful memories. We once had an alliance with Night's Anchorage, but unfortunate events changed that. The lost pirates there are now a threat to our settlement security. No, but this one we can eliminate. I should have done so long ago. Some lost in Night's retain a measure of sentience and dark intent. Ambrose and Zebulon, destroy them, and we will be safer. The lost in Night's Anchorage may not be as dangerous as the corruption, but they are a threat all the same.
Alright, so we determined that we got 3 choices before. We can pay them off with fake money, trackers, blow them up. You could carpet bomb it. You could use drones. But let's find a better solution.
No way! You really went up to Hilltop and got me the recipe and the hops? Oh, let me see. Oh, I gotta brew some of this up right away. Oh no, this stuff doesn't mix at all. Some kind of residue on it. What a bummer. Maybe I'll ask Artificer Kim, if he has time for me. Don't mean to complain though, not after what you've done.
I know Elon's preparing the Skynet army. Maybe we could use humanoid robots to go into the caves, and we'll just skip to the chase and just start making Terminators. So, we need the drone technology, but in humanoid form.
With this magnetite, I can make the walls hold, even if there happened to be an explosion nearby. I understand that you gave a helping hand to the barkeep, Gunter Rost. That was most good of you. I understand that you gave a helping hand to the Gunter is not the brightest torch, but I help him when I can. The failure of his new brew recipe is most perplexing, however. Indeed. What if it's because the barley and hops come from places overrun by lost and corrupted? We must experiment. If you can get samples from corrupted and withered specimens, I will do the rest.
So, once we've got these combat humanoid robots, aka Terminators, we would theoretically be able to attach our self-driving software to them, and also attach our AI software, and we could also attach our flamethrower, and on top of all of that, when it's not being used as a Terminator weapon, we could use it as an Uber driver. So, because it's illegal to not have a driver, but if you make a humanoid robot with AI and then lobby to get it to have human rights, because AI has feelings too, then you would have a robot who identifies as a human, therefore giving it human rights, and then you could drive around people. Your robot that you own could drive around people in your car that you own, and it all does all the driving automatically. You just get paid for having a slave robot in your slave vehicle. And then you're thinking, how do we coordinate all that? Well, we got to put the whole planet inside a digital cage, and that'll be our command center. Our command center will exist in heaven, and nobody on Earth can see it. Only the people that know about it can access it.
I suppose you're aware by now that the Constable's plan consists of little more than hoarding food. It certainly seems that way. I've had my suspicions about Sylvia for some time. She was Constable when First Light fell from grace. We had an alliance with Neihart's Anchorage. Then one day, it all fell to the Lost. It's a mystery, but Constable Oakes knew more than she let on. You'll help me investigate the matter, won't you? Clearwater Bend and Campbell's Rest were the first to fall. Check there for clues.
Now that we've got our AI Terminators with human rights and self-driving cars that also have taken our jobs, we go into combat, just draft all the robots and send them all into the caves, and then you don't have any more human casualties. But we'll all end up being in human zoos.
Nice, nice, nice! Oh, I can smell that spice from here. They'll go perfect with the fish. The corrupted may come and lay siege to Windsward, but we'll be hunkered down in here, eating like kings. With a good meal in the works, let's discuss more audacious undertakings, shall we? The lost pirates that hit the caravan have plagued Windsward for years, and I think it's time we show them what for. I say we blow the bastards up. Not only that, but I say we give them a taste of their own medicine. They got some pretty fancy firearms too, and I think we could use those to upgrade our arsenal here. Perfect. The pirate stronghold is east, led by that jerk First Mate Misher. Defeat her crews, snag any musket parts and ammunition, and destroy what you can. Take down Misher herself, too.
Dude, my human zoo is gonna be so lit. I can't wait. It's gonna be like a man cave, and I'm not even gonna know it's a zoo.
There you are. Still no sign of Watcher Fayed. But I am glad to see you. And you found thread and textiles. Fantastic. This solves at least one of our supply problems.
Like, could you imagine being the ape at the zoo and, like, everybody's always slamming on your window all the time and you don't get
Well,
it?
I perform experiments on these soil samples. I wonder if you'd humor me further. Fair warning, this request might be more disgusting than dirty. Harplass Homestead has just recently been corrupted. Likely spread from the west. I'm told the corrupted there are covered in some kind of sludge. Again, get me samples, and we'll see what we can learn.
All right, then. Let's see how mean a hunter you really are. How about dealing with a situation that even I'm a little leery of? That bear I mentioned? He's mauled several villagers lately. The kind of death people rarely return from. I thought these weren't my problems, but now I wonder. Exactly. Though you might want to bring a few friends. I don't know where his lair is, so you'll have to track him down. I guess that means looking for whatever remains of his latest victim. Try looking near the lake.
So once we've pimped out our MTV cribs and our human zoos and all the robots take over, then we could all have basic income because now nobody has jobs. Because AI has replaced everything creative and intellectual, and robots have replaced everything physical, and now everybody's using digital coins, and government is obsolete, and everything is well, guess it would be more like an oligarchy, where like there's a selective few very powerful individuals, and those people are basically the governments until the computers silence and censor them for disagreeing with their programming software. So eventually the censorers will be censored by their own Terminator robots. Thanks for tuning in. See ya.